My name, for those of you who may not know me, I'm Anna Grantham. I've been with Hunter's Hope since January of 2011. And I lead our Leukodystrophy Care Network and our newborn screening programs. We're so glad that you're here with us tonight. We're going to talk about really all of the Hunter's Hope programs, try to give you kind of a bird's eye view, I guess. But with anything that we talk about tonight as we go, we will have some time towards the end of the evening for questions. So you can just type those in the chat. And then also I will be giving my contact information, and I'm sure Melissa will be giving hers. So consider this the beginning of an extended conversation, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have. So if you were on the call last night, which was so great to see everybody, you heard from our co-founders, Jim and Jill Kelly. They started Hunter's Hope after their son Hunter was diagnosed with Krabbe disease, which is a type of leukodystrophy. And like many of you, when Hunter was diagnosed, his story might be similar to your family's story. When Hunter was diagnosed with Krabbe disease in 1997, the Kellys were not given any hope and no direction to help treat his extreme medical needs. In fact, they were told, take him home, make him comfortable, and prepare for him to die for sure by the age of 2. But Hunter lived to be 8.5 years old. Hunter needed the same care that every child and adult with leukodystrophy needs. He needed proactive expert care to manage the symptoms of the disease, like pain, seizures, feeding issues. And then he also needed proactive preventative care to avoid unnecessary complications of the disease, like pneumonia or scoliosis, eye infections, things that could be prevented, but again, only through proactive and comprehensive care. So while Hunter's family of course, they worked tirelessly to navigate Hunter's care. There were many issues that could have been avoided if they had access to the kind of medical care Hunter needed. And one example of this is that in the first years of Hunter's life, he was hospitalized for pneumonia so many times that his family lost count. And after countless hospitalizations, a clinician finally told them that Hunter was aspirating because he had the wrong kind of G tube. He needed a JG tube. And then another clinician shared, and again, this is after years of suffering, that Hunter needed respiratory therapy around the clock. Once these two relatively simple changes were made in Hunter's treatment plan, he rarely, if ever, had to be hospitalized for pneumonia again. And if these treatment options had been offered from the beginning, Hunter would have avoided years of unnecessary suffering. And I know that everyone on this call knows that tragically, so many of these issues that I just described still exist today for numerous leukodystrophy families. And this is why the LCN was started, in Hunter's honor and in honor of the thousands of children and adults who also suffer from leukodystrophy. So from the beginning, since Hunter's Hope was started, a key goal or objective of the foundation has been to create centers of excellence for patients with leukodystrophies. So around 2013, our CEO, Jackie Wagner, who was also Hunter's grandma, she began to really focus on launching this program. And if you know Jackie, you know that when she focuses on getting something done, it will get done. It will. So Jackie started researching other successful models of centers of excellence in other disease groups. And she also spent time learning more about the specific needs of the leukodystrophy community. And through her research, she learned that we needed to follow the model established by cystic fibrosis. So when the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation began in 1995, patients with the disease were not expected to live long enough to even make it to elementary school. The CF Foundation started by establishing 2 centers of excellence that were committed to proactive multidisciplinary care for patients with CF. And then over time, the number of centers grew. Also, they established a process of creating standards of care for CF, then studying the outcomes, and just have this process of continually making improvements to those standards, therefore continually improving the care and the quality of life and the length of life for individuals with CF. So now people with CF are living to be 30, 40, and beyond. And as incredible as this progress is, I think it's important to know that there still is not a cure for cystic fibrosis. And as we all know, there is also no cure for leukodystrophies, but they are all treatable. Proactive, multidisciplinary expert medical care will give children and adults with leukodystrophy the best quality of life possible. So in 2015, the LCN, or Leukodystrophy Care Network, was established. Like I said, we shamelessly follow the cystic fibrosis model. And using that model, network of medical providers and leukodystrophy families work together to determine the criteria and the framework for the LCN. And the mission of the LCN is to revolutionize, oops, I didn't mean to change that, oh well. To revolutionize the health and quality of life for every individual affected by leukodystrophies. And this is done through a network of centers in the US, and we hope eventually the world, that will provide this excellent expert care for leukodystrophy patients. One key aspect of the LCN I want to make sure to mention is that the LCN is patient-led. The steering committee, and this has been from the very beginning, the LCN steering committee members are all families affected by leukodystrophies. We feel like it's very important that the LCN is built on the actual needs and experiences of families impacted by leukodystrophies. And in all we do, the patient voice is included and elevated. We believe that patient advocates should always have a seat at the table. So every single aspect of the LCN involves a partnership with family advocates and medical experts working together. Each LCN center must meet a specific criteria, and you can find this on the LCN section of our website. There are many, it's a few pages, that's why I'm not going to go into it, but among many things, this includes having a multidisciplinary team that can provide the comprehensive proactive medical care leukodystrophy patients need. And additionally, each LCN center has a core team that runs the center's leukodystrophy clinic. So this includes a center director, which is typically a neurologist, an associate director, and then a nurse or nurse practitioner who serves as the LCN care coordinator. So our nurse care coordinators are really the heart of the LCN. They serve as the navigator for each patient's care. And we do not believe that families should have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to navigating their loved one's medical care. And the nurse care coordinator really helps establish a plan and is the family's point of contact. The care coordinators also help to coordinate care with the patient's local care team if the LCN center is not in the patient's hometown. And I want you to know that our care coordinators, they meet every month. It's always a lively meeting. I've heard them described as the extroverts of the leukodystrophy community, but please know that they are so committed to providing exceptional care to leukodystrophy patients. They care so deeply for this community, and we're just so grateful for their passion and dedication. Currently, we have 12 LCN certified centers across the United States. One of the many requirements to become an LCN center is that the centers have to have the capacity to serve as a site for clinical trials as new potential treatment options for leukodystrophies become available. And if you were at the medical portion of the meeting on Wednesday, you got to hear from several of our industry partners. It's a very exciting time for leukodystrophies because now we have on the horizon, these potential treatments, and many are in clinical trials, and many of those clinical trials are being held at some of the LCN centers. So we're very happy about that. I do want to encourage you to visit the LCN Centers page on the Hunter's Hope website to learn more about our centers. And there's a list of the centers, and you can click on each one. And on each center's page, you'll see a link to that center's. They did like a recorded presentation with more information about the center, just so you can get to know what that center has to offer. It's just, a high level overview. And then there's also contact information for each center right there on the page. So if you want to learn more about potentially receiving care there, you can reach out to them, but you can also reach out to me directly if you have any questions or if you want help with connecting with one of our centers. Also, like the cystic fibrosis model, a very important aspect to the LCN is that we are establishing standards of care for leukodystrophies, monitoring those outcomes, and then improving the standards of care to continually improve the health and quality of life of individuals with leukodystrophies. We call these standards of care clinical practice guidelines, or CPGs for short. Each CPG work group is co-led by a medical expert and a family advocate. And the work group is made up of medical providers who specialize in leukodystrophies, or whatever the specific subject matter is of that particular CPG. So we may have experts in respiratory care or in musculoskeletal issues. So it's a pretty impressive. We have several impressive groups, and the CPGs are they are published in peer-reviewed medical articles. So it's not just for the LCN centers to follow, it's for any medical provider to follow. So any medical provider who has a leukodystrophy patient can theoretically access this information and have the best standard of care for their patient. The CPGs are published, like I said, and we also, once the CPG is published, our goal is to publish a corresponding family guide so that the information that the doctors have, leukodystrophy families can also have, and it's easily accessible. So if you weren't able to join us yesterday for our medical meeting, we did hear from several of our CPG lead authors. And in the next month, probably sooner than that even, we'll be posting those recordings on our website. We'll make sure to email everybody when they're up. But you can also go to our website, to the Leukodystrophy Resource Library. And on that, you'll see a list. It's a different grouping, different categories of all of our publications so far. So, and that includes the family guides. Please, like I said, do not hesitate to contact me with any questions or anything you'd like to discuss regarding the LCN. You can email me anytime. My email is easy to remember. It's Anna@huntershope.org.